I'm gonna do an I'm gonna do an overview of the research paper that I did on school bullying. Some of the essential questions that I wanted answered before after answered after doing the research paper is why do some teachers let these bullying events occur? What programs are there out there to prevent bullying? And I first start with a hook in my paper about considering that we live in a cruel and evil society, that through the effects of bullying, it leads to greater evil. And I also, in my research paper, I wanted to see if there was a concurrency between school bullying and suicide rates, and school shootings. One of the articles I did find was that school bullying wasn't a direct causation of suicide rates, but they kind of correlate. I then talk about identifying and defining bullying, since there are many types and over time changed. For example, before the internet and social media, cyberbullying didn't exist, and now there is a new type of bullying, which is cyberbullying. Another thing I wanted to hit was adolescence and the bullying that occurs there. One of the types of bullying that I talk about is social bullying, which is really hard to identify because it occurs when, for example, one of the articles that I liked was based on a real case about female students facing bullying during middle school and high school. And it was based on rumors. So social bullying is harder to recognize, and it usually occurs behind the victim's back. For example, that specific case that I was looking at, it was kind of based on the movie Mean Girls, where she was a new student in high school, and she was talking to this boy, and this boy had a girlfriend, and that her girlfriend spread rumors about the new kid, that she was like sleeping with a lot of kids, and that was like a form of social bullying. And there's a lot of bullying occurring in schools. And another thing that I liked that I found was that one of those solutions was parent involvement. One of the activities that I found was that I would implement in my class was, it was like a scenario where, and it was basically, what if you had a child and he was being bullied or segregated based on his sexuality and based on homophobic people that are homophobic. So what if you had a child and there was a picture surfacing around with him on a dress, and it was like, what are you gonna do to deal with that? And another solution, for example, so also it talks about other solutions of school bullying, is to teach kids about these scenarios that are occurring and how the victim feels and how to avoid them, and teaching kids how to be kind to one another. I actually saw this happening in my tutorial site when we were teaching about integrity and positivity and growth mindset. For example, the teacher was saying, for growth mindset, she was saying, well, if you get into a challenge, don't just give up or let those negative thoughts stay in there in your head. Like, try to push back and try to learn from your mistakes. And that kind of was like, so the positivity and integrity was trying to being positive, was treating others like you want to be treated, treating everybody more positively, and having a growth mindset when being bullied. Like, don't let it stay in your head and suppress you and keep these negative thoughts. One of one of the pop culture references that I use in my paper is about the notorious film Joker, and this Japanese cartoon on One Piece. In this One Piece, one of the seasons, it's about, so there's a lot of races, and one of the specific race is the Fishman. So it's just men that are from the sea, and in this season, this character Hachi, he like covers himself because these fishmen are treated like second class citizen. It was embedded through society. These segregation, this implicit bias, these stereotypes. They're being bullied because they look different. And that whole season, at the end of the day, it teaches us and how the humans and the fishmen come together, and we try to destroy these stereotypes and destroy this bullying that's occurring because the fishmen were being treated as second class citizens, basically. For the film Joker, one of the film critics that I liked, we were talking about the Joker was that society like reinvented um, the Joker, like a normal Joe, into this evil, crazy maniac by being bullied and having this mental illness, and people not addressing that. So one of the quotes that I like in that movie was having people that have a mental illness behave like you don't have it. So saying that people didn't address it or people didn't want to help him with that, and he also was being bullied and treated bad in society, which led him to turn himself into a criminal. It turned him. And when I talked about adolescence, I want to talk about Erickson's psychological theory, where it was during adolescence, it's a delicate stage because the students are growing. It's a moment of growth, and if they suffer this bullying, such events, or just segregation, being teased, it like it stays with them, and that growth like stays with them while they're still growing. It reinvents them. So Erickson's psychological ID theory says that during this time, students are adolescents are reevaluating and self-assessing their identity. And if they're suffering these bullying, one of the stats that I like was that most of them get bullied, and a lot of bystanders see bullying, and most of the direct leading cause is because they look different or they act different. So if they do, then they kind of go against their identity. They try to be somebody else. They self-invent themselves into something else. They're not, and it kind of messes with identity. A little bit more about Erickson's self-identity. It's about students are like a jigsaw puzzle, and they're becoming something. Another one that I like, another metaphor analogy that I liked, was that their identity is like a quilt, and over time they're building this quilt, like adding stuff into their culture. Another heavy thing I did want to talk about was in my paper I do talk about is anti-bullying movements and stuff so that we can incorporate strategies that we can incorporate. One of the books that I did get for this research paper was about strategies against students, school bullying and bullying in schools, but it was an educator in Spain, so it was a little bit different. In the paper, I also do talk about two personal experiences that I felt I've experienced in middle school, and one of them was actually the suppressor was the teacher. I also talk about who the suppressor can be, and for the two times that I did personally feel this could have been avoided or even done better if the teacher used responsive teaching, like, hey, what's going on, like, you'll see in the paper, but in one of them it was based on in PE. So I was really having a hard time in middle school. Like, I had a cast, and then I couldn't do an activity, and the PE teacher just immediately thought that like, he literally called me like fat and lazy for not doing the activity, where he could have like sat me down and asked me what's going on. Like, I guess I could have like approached him like, oh, I can't do this stuff, like, what's going on, but sometimes the teacher has to do that thing. I also do talk about other events. One of them was personal because I work here at Lincoln High School, and it was this horrible thing, this bullying that occurred to the black minority cheerleaders at Lincoln when they went to go. It was a football game. I believe it was in an Orange County school, where these Lincoln cheerleaders were being called out slurs, racial slurs. It's a type of bullying, and I do cover some of real life events that bullying happens and the negative effects that happen. Thank you.